Kherson has already been taken over by Russia. Kharkiv is on the verge of going to Russia. Will Kyiv face the force of Russia's troops next? As talks continue between Ukraine and Russia in Belarus, Ukrainians are bracing for a likely escalation by the Russian side in the capital.
The city of Kherson has fallen. The second largest city, Kharkiv, is being pounded by Russia. And now the invading forces are turning the heat up on Kyiv. Late night on Wednesday, explosions rocked the capital, targeting the city's central railway station. As talks between the two sides look unlikely to succeed for a second time, Russian troops are awaiting orders to go full throttle into Kyiv. After a night of dreadful bombings, Ukrainians braced for the tough days of fighting that lies ahead.
This special broadcast comes to you from the heart of Kyiv. This is the Krishyatik area. This is the center of Kyiv. There is a military checkpoint just behind me because this is the road that leads to the presidential palace and the parliament. There is not just massive military deployment, but as you can see, several layers of barricades that have been set up in this area.
Freezing temperatures have not slowed down the Ukrainian forces. They are firming up defensive positions.
Those white sandbags there, those are the sandbags which have been placed behind the wall to use as a firing position in case any enemy movement takes place on that road coming from top to down below there.
Civilians are taking up weapons, ready to defend their land.
Pranav, you go to college. In college, one would expect you'd have a pen in your hand or a computer, but you have an assault rifle.
Yes, I do, but this is only for self-defense. If anything does happen, we're here to protect our country. As my sister said, the willpower of this country is the strongest. No other country has the willpower that Ukraine has that will be there to defend our country no matter what.
The city is witnessing unending, blaring air raid sirens in anticipation of air attacks and missile strikes. The big Russian blitz on the capital looks inevitable. How long can Kyiv and its people resist the unsparing Russian onslaught? With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
So how far has Russia progressed in its invasion plan? First major gain came in yesterday, where the port city of Kherson fell to Russia. Russian troops are now in the southern Ukrainian city. Ukraine, however, is holding on to other major cities as of now, despite extremely heavy shelling.
Gunfire, explosions, bombardments, incessant rain of missiles and rockets. And southern port city of Kherson falls after 8 days. Russia's first major gain after it launched Mission Siege Ukraine. The rampage on Kherson has given Russia a tragic advantage in the region. Kherson, with a population of 2.5 lakh, is strategically located where DNIPRO river flows into the Black Sea. Kherson will prove to be an advantage for Russian forces to lay siege on eastern Ukraine.
Russian armed forces have taken the city of Kherson under total control. Civilian infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and public transport work as usual. There is no shortage of groceries or staple goods.
Russian troops took control of strategic buildings after capturing Kherson and was in talks with local authorities to maintain law and order in the city and avoid civilian aggression. With Kherson falling, Russia is now putting its focus on big cities of Kyiv, Kharkiv and Mariupol. Russia has breached one fortress. Will more follow? Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's continue getting your voices from the ground this morning. Joining us is journalist Dana Volasenko. Dana, can you tell us, first of all, good morning, what's the situation in Kherson?
yesterday the Russians fired upon security service building and the city council. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Last night, our soldiers struck the airport Kherson, which was near the city, and now the city is forced to leave according to certain rules. Curfew, only special services are allowed to move around the city, and civilians have to move 1 or 2 persons at a time and no more. There is much heavy equipment on the territory of the city. Snipers work in certain position. A lot of Russian military tripwire have already been seen in some areas. City administration is in the workplace and continues working. Surrender is not considered. The authorities are trying to set up a green corridor to take the soldiers out and to deliver food and medicine to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe. The same situation all over is all over the region. There are regions which are cut off from humanitarian assistance, and they have been with no water, no food, 7 days already.
That was exactly what I was going to ask you, Diana. How are you managing food, water, etc., considering the situation currently in your city of Kherson?
Yeah, I have a food, I have a water, but all of people in my city, in my region, all Ukraine are afraid because this is a war, and the civilians people, someone are killed, and it's all terrible.
Okay. All right, Diana, stay safe out there. Thank you very much for joining us here on India Today. This morning, the big story that's coming in from Ukraine and very worrying for the entire world right now is a nuclear power plant being targeted by Russian forces, and that's led to a fire. This is the largest nuclear plant in Europe. It's based in Zaporizhzhia. And the Ukraine foreign minister has also tweeted confirming that right now there's an all-out assault on this power plant, and he's appealing here. He's saying the Russian army is firing from all sides upon the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe. A fire has already broken out. If it blows up, it will be 10 times larger than Chernobyl. Russians must immediately cease the fire, allow firefighters, establish a security zone. Ukraine appealing there, saying that things could get very, very bad if action isn't taken immediately. What we're hearing right now is that there's a fire in the administrative building. If it spreads beyond that to particularly the reactors, what you're going to be seeing will be catastrophic, playing out in Europe's largest nuclear power plant. It will have huge repercussions for the population living close by. And immediately your mind takes you back to what happened with the Chernobyl power plant. That was an accident. That also was, of course, triggered by a fire. This time around, at this point, the situation is very, very scary with the nuclear power plant based in Zaporizhzhia in Ukraine. It's the largest in Europe right now under fire. This is the administrative building. Ukraine has warned that if Russian troops don't stop their firing, things will get very, very bad, which is why they're appealing, saying stop the firing, allow firefighters in, allow them to control this blaze, establish a security zone, or things will get very bad. You've got the Ukraine government warning there that this will be 10 times larger than Chernobyl. Imagine that. Things are, in fact, very scary right now in Ukraine. What Russia's been doing is that it's been targeting the energy hubs, but in the process of doing that, the largest nuclear power plant is on fire. Let me again highlight for you that this is the administrative building, but it's close to the reactors that are based in this plant, and we'll be putting out a map for you shortly to explain to you exactly where the reactors are. If you look at that particular map, you'll get a sense of why this is very, very dangerous. Reminiscent, of course, of what happened in 1986 in Chernobyl, that nuclear disaster, and both Russia and Ukraine will not want that at this stage right now. As we've been seeing Russia targeting energy hubs, the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia has reportedly been surrounded by Russian troops. They are in fact firing at it, is what Ukraine has said. If this continues, as Ukraine has warned, if this reaches the reactors, this will be like nothing we've ever seen. It will be the worst nuclear disaster ever. Chernobyl in 1986 was considered to be the worst after, in fact, a nuclear accident had taken place in one of the reactors. And this was in North Ukraine. Chernobyl disaster happened in North Ukraine. This is another city now, the city of Zaporizhzhia, where you've got the largest nuclear power plant in all of Europe that's now on fire. We're going to continue to track this very closely, try to get our reporters on the ground as well to join us with more on what's exactly playing out right now. But what I'm putting out on your screens right now is the images that have emerged from Zaporizhzhia. It's a city, in fact, in southeast Ukraine, so far away from Chernobyl, but considered to be very crucial for the whole of Europe. This is something that perhaps the whole of Europe should have anticipated, safeguarded against. Clearly that hasn't happened because Russian troops have managed to go right in. They're now firing at the power plant is what Ukraine has said. But like I said, this could be detrimental for not just Ukraine, but for the entire world, for Russia too. And look at those images that are coming in, the video that we're putting out on your screens. Truly, truly worrying, truly scaring. This is the largest nuclear plant that's now been targeted by Russia. You see that huge beam of light literally dropping down, after which there's what looks like an explosion breaking out in this massive nuclear plant. It's in one corner, the left side of your screens is where you see something dropping down. Looks like a missile falls there, and then there's this huge blaze that breaks out. You see the smoke also in the air. Very scary this. And on the right part is where the rest of the power plant is. The reactors, according to the Ukraine government, is also close by, which is why this is very, very scary right now. Things like a Chernobyl, that kind of a nuclear disaster happened after the reactor was also, in fact, after the reactor caught fire. And what you see on your screens right now is the map that I was just referring to. This is of the nuclear power plant. On the right there, what you see, the dome-like structure, and many of them, you can count how many of them are there. Those are the reactors. We have marked it out also for you. On the left side, where the administrative buildings are, it looks like that's where one of the buildings has caught fire. Not very far away from the reactors, and that really is a concern. In fact, you can see here that the reactors, there are, if I'm not wrong, 6 of them. They've not caught fire yet, but they're at the further end, close to, in fact, the area near the DNIPRO river. This particular nuclear power plant is bordering the DNIPRO river. So if there's any sort of fire, any sort of leak, it will contaminate the river, and that will mean that the whole of Ukraine, Russia, parts of Russia too, will get affected. So the need of the hour is to stop any siege, any attack on a nuclear power plant. The last thing we need is a disaster of this scale. It will be worse than Chernobyl if something happens to those 6 reactors that you see there on your screens. The fire right now, we're going to try to identify the exact point where the blaze has taken place. But going by the footage also that's emerged, it's happened in one corner, looks like to the extreme left. So one of the buildings there is on fire. The Ukraine government has said that yes, it's an administrative building, but for obvious reasons, they are very, very concerned. If the fire spreads further and further into closer to the reactors, it will be very scary for the entire world. I'm slipping into a very short break. Day 9 of Putin's invasion, a nuclear power plant, Europe's largest, is on fire. What does that mean for the entire world? We'll be getting you nuclear experts to speak about this as well in just a few moments from now.